Back in the 1960s, a group of daring players, most famously Bobby Hull, revolutionized hockey sticks by heating the blades over stoves and bending them into wild, banana-like curves. These weren't minor tweaks, they turned each slap shot into an unpredictable nightmare. Pucks would dip, twist, and turn like magic bullets, leaving even elite goalies guessing. Some shots changed direction mid-air, making them nearly impossible to block. It was pure chaos and pure danger. While fans loved the spectacle and goalies feared for their lives, the NHL saw the writing on the wall. To contain this madness and keep the playing field fair, they introduced a firm limit. Stick curvature could be no more than 3/4 of an inch. That rule remains strictly enforced today, ensuring that offensive flair doesn't come at the cost of goalie safety or the integrity of the game. Then came a trend that was more about swagger than physics. The jersey tuck. Wayne Gretzky popularized it, casually tucking his jersey into his pants like it was no big deal. But the look caught fire. From young hopefuls in minor leagues to NHL veterans, everyone wanted to emulate the Great One's signature style. It was part fashion, part personal flair, and all identity. But by 2013, the NHL had had enough. Referees were having trouble identifying players and checking gear, things that mattered for safety and fairness. The league cracked down, banning the tuck entirely and slapping delay-of-game penalties on violators. Some players got sneaky, sewing jerseys into pants or using industrial-strength Velcro. Others, like Alex Ovechkin, openly mocked the rule as ridiculous. But the NHL stood firm, putting visibility and consistency over personal flair. And just like that, the Gretzky tuck became a relic of the past. While jerseys were being untucked, fists were still flying, and with them, helmets. Fighting has long been hockey's gritty underbelly, and players like Rob Ray made it theatrical by dramatically removing their helmets before throwing the first punch. It was tradition, it was drama, it was also dangerous. As concussion research mounted, the league had no choice but to act. A rule was put in place. Anyone removing a helmet before a fight would get a 2-minute penalty. Predictably, players got crafty, loosening chin straps, nudging off each other's gear. But none of that changed the growing pile of medical evidence. Fighting without helmets increased the risk of skull fractures and career-ending concussions. The Rob Ray rule may have dulled some of the drama, but it prioritized something far more important: keeping players' brains intact. Even more astonishing, there was a time when NHL players weren't required to wear helmets at all. Many saw helmets as a sign of weakness, something only rookies and soft players needed. This bravado persisted well into the late 1970s, even as the game got faster and shots harder. In 1979, the NHL finally mandated helmets, but only for new players. Veterans could opt out if they signed liability waivers accepting the risk. One man, Craig McTavish, rode that grandfather clause to its limit, becoming the last helmetless player in the league. He finally retired in 1997 after 17 seasons of unprotected play and a nickname that said it all: Mac the Target. With the evolution of helmets and a much deeper understanding of head injuries, no one in today's NHL would dare hit the ice without full protection. But helmets weren't the only safety concern. Broken sticks posed a sneaky threat too. When a stick snapped mid-play, some players just kept using it, jagged edges and all. Others tried to take them back together right there on the ice. These splintered weapons became hazards, capable of cutting skin, poking eyes, or worse. The NHL stepped in with a rule that made continuing to play with a broken stick an immediate penalty. Yes, dropping your stick might cost a scoring opportunity, but it also prevents serious injuries. Today's composite sticks are designed to shatter cleanly, and teammates are quick to slide replacements across the ice in emergencies. It's a small sacrifice for a safer game. And when it came to safety loopholes, goalies pushed boundaries like no one else. Literally. At one point, goalie gear got so enormous it looked absurd. Pads puffed out like mattresses, chest protectors were wide enough to stop traffic, and goalies joked about needing help just to walk through doors. This trend turned scoring into an impossible task, frustrating fans and players alike. Eventually, the NHL had enough. They introduced strict size limits and routine inspections, checking every inch of goalie gear to ensure it fit within fair bounds. One infamous case? Garth Snow, whose armor was so oversized it sparked endless jokes about smuggling sofas under his pads. Today, the rules ensure that goalies are protected but not invincible, giving shooters a fair shot and fans the goals they come to see. Just as goalie pads were being scaled back, the league also began scrutinizing the sticks themselves, not just for curvature, but for everything. Some players were modifying their sticks to be longer, wider, or more dramatically curved than the rules allowed. These illegal tweaks gave them extra reach, more puck control, and a sneaky edge on the ice. To combat this, the NHL launched surprise stick measurements during games like spot checks for hockey outlaws. One of the most dramatic examples came in the 1993 Stanley Cup Finals, when Montreal's coach called out Marty McSorley's illegal stick. The penalty turned the tide of the game and arguably the entire series. But fighting wasn't just about two players squaring off anymore. When tempers flared and third men jumped in, the ice could quickly erupt into full-blown chaos. Bench-clearing brawls became spectacles, with 20 players throwing punches in a scene more fitting for a saloon than a hockey rink. To stop these disasters, the NHL instituted the third man in rule, automatic ejection, suspensions, and fines for anyone joining a fight already in progress. This rule was born out of necessity, especially after epic melees like the Detroit versus Colorado showdown, where even goalies Patrick Waugh and Mike Vernon were trading blows. While the NHL was tightening rules on protective gear, some players were getting creative with their tape, and not in a good way. They weren't just wrapping sticks for better grip, they were building up extra curves, layering tape to change blade shape, and even sharpening edges. Some turned their gear into hidden weapons. Others took the DIY route with padding, stripping it down until it barely offered any protection. There were helmets drilled full of holes for ventilation, shoulder pads hollowed out to shave weight, and chin straps so loose they might as well have not been there. It might have felt cool or clever at the time, but it was also extremely dangerous. Players were taking hits with equipment that couldn't absorb impact, and when collisions happened, they paid the price. The NHL wasn't having it. Any use of tape that alters the factory design? Banned. Any piece of gear that's been tampered with? Confiscated. Today, inspectors examine gear like airport security agents, looking for anything that's been modified beyond regulation. And players caught wearing altered equipment are pulled from the game until it's fixed. Another major step in safety came with the introduction of mandatory visors in 2013. Before that rule, many veterans refused to wear them, believing they made them look soft or less intimidating. But serious injuries, like the horrifying case of Manny Malhotra, whose career nearly ended after a puck shattered his eye socket, forced the league to act. From that year forward, every new player had to wear a visor. Veterans already in the league were given the choice to keep going without one, but younger players caught without it faced penalties and ejections. Some grumbled about fogging or slightly limited peripheral vision, but in the end, the stakes were too high. A single puck to the face could cause blindness or worse. And yet, even with all these bans, hockey hasn't lost its soul. It's still fast, still brutal, still packed with unbelievable talent, grit,